You remember how long a summer used to be? When you were young, that first morning of summer vacation, the whole thing stretched out in front of you, June and July and forever. And you were never, ever going to run out of days. You remember that? That feeling's hard to come by now. The summers got short somewhere along the way. The friends you ran with, sunup to sundown, scattered to the four winds. Kids don't roam loose till dark anymore. And nobody, anywhere, has all the time in the world. But you had it once, and you remember every long day of it. And so do I. I'm Henry. Welcome to sweet old America. With this channel, me and my friends are taking you back to the golden days of America. In every video, we rediscover and remember the forgotten version of those golden days. Now, today we're going way out to the California coast. Huntington Beach, the 1960s, back when they called it Surf City, and the best waves in the state peeled off an old wooden pier. When the oil derricks pumped away right there on the sand next to the sunbathers. When every transistor radio on the beach was playing that same twangy surf guitar. And when a kid could grab a board at first light and not come home till the bonfire burned down to coals. I make these for the people who remember. If that's you, settle in and stay a while. And when we're through, do me a kindness, tell me down below, where did you spend your summers when you were young? I read every one. Maybe yours is the town we go to next. So kick your shoes off. There's no hurry now, and nowhere in the world we have to be. Close your eyes and breathe in salt and sunscreen and the sea. We're just about there. It is still dark when your eyes come open, and you know before you're even awake that the morning is gray. You can feel it through the thin curtain, that soft, flat, no-color light that the coast gives you all the early part of the summer. The marine layer come in off the water in the night and settle down over the whole town like a held breath. The little tract house is dead quiet around you. Down the hall, your folks are still sleeping. You can hear the long, slow tick of the kitchen clock. And somewhere under it, faint and steady, the thing you were really listening for, the surf, working away down at the end of the streets, a soft, heavy thud and hiss you feel more than hear. You lie there one more second in the warm, and then you're up, because there are mornings a boy will not sleep through, and this is one of them. You pull on your trunks in the dark, cold and stiff off the line. You pad through the house on bare feet, past the couch, past your father's work shirt laid out over the chair for the morning, the gray one, the one he wears into the plant, with his name stitched over the pocket, and you ease the kitchen door so the screen doesn't slap and wake the house. The kitchen smells of last night's supper still, fried and gone cold, and of the coffee your mother will put on in another hour. Petey's door stands open a crack, and you can hear him in there breathing slow, dead to the world, one foot hanging off the bed the way he always sleeps. Your mother's set the breakfast things out half ready on the counter, the bowls, the box of cereal, a dish towel folded over the faucet. The clock on the stove says not yet 6. The whole house is holding still, warm and close and sleeping, everybody in it right where they belong, and you move through it quiet as a thief, the one soul awake in the world. You don't stop for any of it. Out through the garage, where the air goes cool and oily and sweet, and there it is, leaned up against the wall where you left it, your board. You run your hand down it in the dark. You take up the lump of wax, paraffin, worn to the shape of your fingers, and you rub it on cold, the way you've done 100 mornings, and the smell of it comes up at you, that clean, dull coconut and candle smell that means the water to you now and always will. The garage is your father's country, mostly. The workbench along the back, the coffee can full of nails, the lawnmower, the tools hung on the wall inside the shapes he painted behind each one so he'd know what went where. But the board is yours. You sanded the rails down on it with him one Saturday, the two of you out here not talking, and it is the single finest thing you own in this world. The concrete is cold under your bare feet. The whole sleeping street is cold and gray, and yours. You tuck the board under your arm, and you go. Outside, the tract is asleep, street after street of low, new houses just like yours, pale in the gray, their lawns still dark with the night's water. Somebody's sprinkler is going, ticking around, and the smell of the wet grass cuts across the salt. You go down the middle of the empty road because you can, board under your arm, slapping along on bare feet. The milk bottles stand sweating on the porches where the milkman left them, the foil caps beaded cold. A dog you know trots out of a side yard to walk you a little way, then thinks better of it and goes on home. Nobody's up. The whole new suburb of you sleeps behind its drawn curtains. All these brand new houses full of brand new families. Most of them come from someplace else, from Ohio and Oklahoma and who knows where, out here chasing the sun the same as everybody. The streetlights are still on, buzzing faint and blue, going pale now as the gray comes up. There are still empty lots between some of the houses, squares of old bean field the tracts haven't swallowed yet, dry and pale and weedy, smelling of dust even now. And out past the last roofs, you can see the slow black shapes of the oil pumps, nodding away on the bluff, that low groan and creak of them going on like it has gone on for 40 years. You cut down toward the water, and the sound of it climbs to meet you. And at the corner, Donnie's already there, board up on his head, grinning at you in the half-dark. And he doesn't say much, and neither do you, because there's nothing that needs saying. You just fall in together and head for the sand. You come over the little rise where the street gives out, and the whole gray ocean opens up in front of you. And you stop, the both of you, just for a second, the way you always do. The smell hits first, the big cold smell of it, salt and kelp and wet sand, a smell with a weight to it, a smell that goes all the way down into you. The pier stands off to your right, long and black and wet, marching out on its old wooden legs into the gray, and the water under it is the color of a nickel. It is glassy. Not a breath of wind yet to mess it up, the swells coming in long and smooth and standing up clean off the sandbar. And there is nobody out, 3 fellows maybe, way down by the pilings, sitting on their boards like dark little buoys, waiting. The sand is cold and packed hard and damp under your feet as you cross it, the tide just turning. You don't slow down. You hit the shallows and the cold of it grabs you around the ankles, the shins, and you gasp and laugh and push on out. And then you're flat on the board and digging, ducking under the white of the broken ones, the cold sliding clean over your head and the salt sharp on your lips, paddling out into the gray. A broken wave comes at you in a wall of white, and you take a breath and push the nose under and punch through it, the board bucking, the cold roaring over your back, and you come up the far side streaming, hair in your eyes. Then another. You scratch up the face of a green one before it can break, and feel that little weightless drop down the back of it. Your arms burn good. Out past the break it goes quiet. That's the part nobody tells you about, how quiet it gets. You sit up on your board, rising and falling on the swell, the water lapping at the rails, and there's just the slap of it and the far-off cry of a gull and the long, booming hush of the sets breaking down the beach. The cold works into you slow, and you don't mind it. One of the older fellows down the line lifts his chin at you, barely, mourning, and goes back to reading the horizon. And that's the whole conversation, and it's enough. A pelican comes gliding down the line of a swell, inches off the water, prehistoric and grave, and tips a wing and is gone. The sky out east is going from gray to a kind of pearl. You can taste the salt on your lips and feel the sun coming on somewhere behind all that gloom, and you wait, watching the gray humps stand up out of the deep water and come rolling toward you, reading them, picking yours. The town behind you has disappeared into the gloom. There is no plant, no school, no nothing, just the gray sky and the gray water, and the dark line of the pier, and the three quiet men and you, 16 years old with salt in your eyes, and the whole ocean breathing under you. And then somebody calls it low outside, and you turn and paddle and feel the swell come up under you and lift you, and you're up and dropping in, the cold green-gray wall standing up beside you, and the whole world rushing. And it is the finest feeling there is, and it is free, and it is yours. And it is 6:30 in the morning and the day hasn't even started. There's a thing about being out there before the world's awake, before anybody wants a single thing from you. Just you and the water and the gray coming up. A lot of us had a place like that once, didn't we? Some place you'd slip off to at first light before the day started asking. You had one? Hold on to it a second. Because the sun's about to burn through, and when it does, the whole beach wakes up. You surf until your arms are rubber and the gloom starts to thin. And somewhere toward the middle of the morning, the sun finally burns through, all at once, the gray pulling back off the water like a sheet drawn away, and the whole beach goes bright and warm and loud. By the time you come dragging up out of the water, the day has changed completely. The sand's gone hot and pale and gold. The beach is filling, towels going down, umbrellas going up, transistor radios starting in, that tinny little far-off sound of them carrying the same song up and down the sand. And here comes your mother down across the soft sand with the cooler and the old plaid blanket, and Petey running circles around her the whole way, your kid brother, 8 years old and already peeling, hollering your name. Your mother sets up the camp the way she always does, the blanket squared away, the umbrella screwed down deep into the sand and angled just so against the sun, the cooler in its shade, the towels, the thermos, the whole day's worth of it carried down on her own 2 arms. She tells you to keep your brother in close where she can see him, and to put your shirt on before you burn, which you won't. You take Petey out front and teach him to body surf in the shore break. Push him onto the little ones, haul him up sputtering and wild-eyed and laughing, do it again and again, the way somebody once did for you. He can't get enough of it, Petey. He'd stay out there till he turned blue if you let him, and you have to haul him in at last by the arm, the both of you shivering and laughing, his little teeth chattering, his lips gone faintly purple, and your mother wraps him up in a towel and rubs him down rough and warm and tells you you'll both catch your death, which is what she always says and never once means. The water's cold and bright now and full of kids. Up on his high white tower, the lifeguard sits with his red buoy and his whistle and his nose painted white, watching all of it. And every so often his voice comes booming flat and bored over the bullhorn, telling some kid to swim in closer to the flags. A vendor comes trudging down the soft sand under his box, calling out his snow cones and his popsicles. A radio close by is playing the Beach Boys, and another one farther off is playing the very same song a half a beat behind, so it chases itself up and down the beach all morning. The whole place shimmers and hollers and smells of coconut oil and hot sand. After a while, you flop down on the hot blanket beside your mother and let the sun cook the cold out of your back. And she hands you a sandwich and a Coke out of the cooler, the bottle sweating cold. And you lie there with the radio going and the sun on you and the salt drying tight on your skin. And you pick a little black bead of tar off your heel without even thinking about it. You always get it on you down here, the tar, the beach is dotted with it, and you scrub it off later with a rag, and the whole long day is laid out in front of you with not one single thing in it that has to be done. Now us boys had it easy, grab a board and go, but that whole day on the sand, somebody packed it. The cooler, the towels, the sandwiches, the white zinc on every sunburned nose. That was your mother's. Maybe it was you, out there under the umbrella, counting heads in the water all afternoon and never once sitting down. You ladies made those days, and I don't think a one of us ever said so. Stay close now, the pier's waiting. After a while, you and Donnie walk down to the pier, because you can spend half a day out on that pier and never get tired of it. You go up the ramp and out onto the boards, and the planks are hot under your bare feet now. Hot creosote and old wood, gone soft and gray with 60 years of sun and salt. Out you walk, over the sand, over the shallows, over the surfers, the whole town dropping away behind you. The fishermen are out along the rails, the way they always are. Old men mostly, their lines down in the green water, their buckets and their cut bait and their thermoses set down beside them, not saying much, just watching their lines and the water. Now and again, one of them hauls up a mackerel flipping silver, or a little sand shark, or a perch, and drops it in the bucket and baits up and sends it back down without a word. A couple of pelicans hunch on the rail down the way, patient as deacons, watching the buckets, and the gulls wheel and scream over the whole business. The boards thrum a little under your feet every time the surf hits the pilings. A deep, soft shudder you feel up through your soles. The bait shop's open, that low, dark smell of it, fish and salt and damp wood. Out near the end, the little cafe is frying something, and there's the snack stand. And behind the snack stand, in a white apron with her hair tied back, is Linda. She works the stand most of the summer, and you find more reasons to walk out to the end of that pier than a boy strictly needs to. She slides you a Coke and rings up Donnie's burger and gives you a hard time about your hair, and you give her one right back. And it doesn't amount to anything, and it amounts to everything. She's from here, Linda, actually from here. One of the old families that were on this sand back when it was nothing but oil wells and bean fields and the Sunday crowds off the big red trolley cars. And she'll tell you so. That the rest of you are Johnny-come-latelys who don't know the first thing about the place. You can't really argue it. You ask, does she ever get off this pier? And she says, maybe she does, for the right fella, and rings up the next customer before you can get your breath back. You lean on the rail with your drinks and look back at the whole shore from out there, the long, bright crescent of the beach, the umbrellas like little colored mushrooms, the town low behind it, the bluff, and the slow black derricks nodding away beyond the houses. Then you look straight down through the gaps in the planks, down past the barnacled pilings to where the swells come marching in, green and clean. And you can see the surfers way down there sitting and waiting, small as toys, and you about can't stand it. You want to be back out there already. The afternoon goes long and gold the way only a summer afternoon can. And you ride it right down till the light starts to slant and your shoulders are heavy and your eyes sting from the salt and the sun. You catch one last one, a good one, all the way in till the board grinds on the sand, and then you're done. And you come up the beach with your board under your arm and your legs gone to water beneath you. Out front of the house, you sit on the back step and work the tar off your feet with a rag and a little gasoline, the way you have to, the black of it streaked on the rag. Your skin is tight and hot across your shoulders, sunburned, salt stiff, and there's sand in everything, and there always will be. You rinse the worst of it off under the hose, cold and sharp enough to make you gasp, the water running gray off you into the flower bed. And you stand there a second, dripping in the last of the sun, feeling about 10 feet tall and worn clean down to nothing, both at the same time. The sprinklers are coming on up and down the block, ticking, and the smell of cut grass and wet cement rises up warm. And from open kitchen windows all down the street comes the smell of suppers starting. Somebody's onions, somebody's pork chops. Your father's car is back in the drive, ticking as it cools. He's home from the plant. He'll be inside now in his undershirt with a cold can of beer and the ball game turned on low, washed up from whatever it is he does all day out there, something with the airplanes, the rockets, the machines they're building to send a man clear up off the earth one of these days, though he never makes much of it. You can smell your mother's supper coming together through the screen and hear the clatter of the pans, and Petey already in there pestering for it. The light goes long and amber over the rooftops and the wet lawns, and a mockingbird runs through everything it knows up on somebody's TV antenna, and the first cool of the evening comes sliding in off the water. You sit there a minute in the gold light, worn out and sun-drunk and happy, in no hurry at all to go in. It's full dark by the time you all get back down to the beach, you and Donnie and the rest, because the night the gang builds a fire is the best night there is. You dig the pit down in the cool sand inside one of the concrete rings, and somebody's got newspaper and scrap wood and an old pallet, and the fire catches and climbs, snapping and throwing sparks up into the dark, and the heat of it presses on your face while the cold comes up your back off the water. There must be a dozen of you, and more drifting up out of the dark all the time, faces swimming up orange in the firelight. Somebody's got a radio going, the surf guitar drippy and twanging, and somebody's got hot dogs and you cook them black on bent coat hangers and eat them anyway. Linda's there on the far side of the fire, the light moving on her face, and she catches you looking and doesn't look away, not right off. The talk goes round, the waves today, the waves tomorrow, who dropped in on who, a board somebody's saving for. Donnie's got a story going, the one about the big day at the pier last winter, and it gets a little bigger every time he tells it, and everybody hoots him down and makes him tell it anyway. Somebody's strumming a guitar under the radio, not well, just chords. The little kids who tagged along are toasting marshmallows till they catch fire, and then waving them around in the dark like torches. You lie back on your elbows in the cool sand with the heat of the fire on your face, and the sparks go climbing up and lose themselves in the stars. And you feel about as easy and as full and as much yourself as you will ever feel anywhere in your life. And past the ring of the firelight, the ocean has gone clean black and invisible, just a great booming, breathing thing out there in the dark. And overhead the stars are coming out thick, and now and again you feel the first cool of the fog feeling its way back in off the water. It comes in slow, the fog, a cool gray breath of it sliding up the sand and smudging out the stars at the edges, smelling of the deep cold water out past the break. The fire pops and settles lower. Somebody pulls a blanket around two of them. The radio plays on, soft now. And the black ocean keeps booming away out there beyond the light, steady as a pulse, the way it has all day and will all night, whether a soul is listening or not. You stay too long, the way you always do. The fire burns down to a deep red bed of coals, and the talk goes soft and slow. And one by one, people drift off into the dark toward home. And then it's the long walk back up the empty streets under the streetlights, sandy and smoky and salt-cured and dead tired. Your board on your head, the surf going quiet behind you. Donnie peels off at his corner with a slap on your shoulder and is gone. The houses are dark now, the sprinklers long since shut off. The blue flicker of a late show in one front window where somebody's father fell asleep in his chair. A cat watches you from a fence post. Your feet know the way home without you, and the fog comes down soft over the whole sleeping tract, beating on the windshields, hushing everything down. And the thing is, you don't think about any of it being precious. You don't think anything at all. You just figure on doing the whole thing over again tomorrow, and the day after that, all the way down the long, bright tunnel of the summer that you are dead sure is never going to end. There's a tired you only get from a whole day used right up, sun on your back, salt dried in your hair, smoke down in your shirt. You knew that feeling once, didn't you? And the best part of it was, you weren't counting. You just figured there'd always be another day like it, right behind this one. That's the gift of being young. You spend it like it'll never run out. Rest easy now. There's a whole summer still ahead of you. You sleep like the dead, the way you do after a whole day in the salt and the sun. And if you dream at all, it's only of green water standing up clean off the bar. And when you wake, the house already smells of it, the 4th of July. Cinnamon and a pie going brown in the oven. The sharp green smell of corn shucked out on the back step. Wood smoke from somebody's grill already started 2 doors down. Your mother's been up for hours. They always are, the women, on a day like this. Down the hall you can hear the screen door and the radio low and the flat ring of a pie tin set on the counter. It's going to be a scorcher. It's going to be the best day of the whole summer. Let's go. By the time you get to the kitchen, the day is already half built, and you had nothing to do with it, and neither did your father. The heat of the oven has the whole little room warm already, on top of the morning's own heat, and the smell of it stops you in the doorway. 2 pies cooling on the sill, cherry, the juice come up dark and bubbled through the slits in the crust. An angel food cake under a dish towel, a pot of potatoes going on the stove for the salad. Your mother's at the counter in her apron with her hair already done, moving fast, and Mrs. Castle from next door is at the table with a bowl in her lap, and the 2 of them are talking the way the women talk on a busy morning, half words, never stopping their hands, one of them finishing what the other started. There are deviled eggs going onto the good divided plate, paprika shook over the top. Your mother's hands never stop the whole time, cracking, peeling, slicing, wiping, 3 things at once, a kind of music she's played so long she doesn't know she's doing it. She carries the timing of the entire day in her head and nowhere else. What goes in the oven when, what travels and what spoils, which dish gets the good plate. She runs the whole thing without a single list written down, the way her own mother must have, and hers before her. There's a lime jello mold in the icebox with the fruit cocktail hung in it like things caught in amber, waiting to be turned out onto a bed of lettuce. There's a bowl of cut watermelons sweating cold. The radio plays low under all of it, a man reading the holiday weather, and then a little brass band music. Mrs. Castle is telling some long story about her sister out in Bakersfield, and your mother says, in the right places, without once looking up from the eggs. And then the 2 of them laugh about something you don't quite catch. The little fan in the corner just pushes the warm air around. The screen door bangs as another neighbor leans in to borrow a cup of something and stays to talk a minute, hip against the jamb, and then is gone. It is the busiest, warmest, most alive room in the whole house, and it runs all morning long without a single wasted motion. You get put to work because nobody stands idle in that kitchen on the 4th. Your mother sends you out to the back step with the ice cream churn, and you pack it around with cracked ice and rock salt the way she shows you, and you crank it and crank it, the custard inside thickening slow against the paddle while the salt ice melts down cold and briny over your hand, until your arm gives clean out and Petey takes a turn, and then you again. The salt ice slush has to be poured off and packed fresh twice before the custard sets up, and your hands go red and aching with the cold of it, and Petey licks a spoon of the rock salt on a dare and makes a face that sends the both of you into fits. When it's finally done, thick and pale and barely turning, your mother packs the dasher away and tamps the lid back down and buries the whole bucket deep in the ice to ripen, and tells you that if she catches you in it before tonight, she'll know. And she will. She always knows. You haul the block of ice. You fetch the flags. You carry the heavy things and you stay out from underfoot and you watch a little the way the whole holiday rises up out of that hot kitchen on the women's two hands, the planning of it, the timing of it, every dish landing ready at the right hour, and not a one of them calls it work. They call it the 4th of July. That potato salad is her own mother's, made the way they made it back home, a long way east of here. And there's a letter propped on the windowsill behind the sink, come this week from your grandmother, that your mother reads over more than once across the morning, going still a second with it before she folds it away and reaches for the colander. She came a long way west to build this kitchen. Some mornings you can see it cross her face, quick, the missing of her own people. And then it's gone, and she's calling you for more ice. Then your mother catches you watching and tells you to go get washed and get your good shirt on before she finds you something harder to do, and you go. Outside, the whole street has put its flag out, and the morning is loud with the holiday. The flags hang off the porch brackets up and down the block, dead still in the heat. The men are out hosing down their driveways and wheeling the grills around and standing in little knots with their hands in their pockets, talking the way men do before a long, easy day. Somebody's already got a transistor going with the ball game pre-game on it. The families are loading up, coolers and folding chairs and umbrellas and squirming kids in their good clothes, and the whole tract is pointing itself the same direction, toward downtown, toward Main Street, where the whole town is headed this morning. Old Mr. Dietrich across the street has run up the flag he carried home from the war, and he stands at attention by himself a second when it reaches the top of the pole, and you slow down and let him. 2 doors up, the Hardys are wrestling their whole brood into the station wagon, kids and cooler and a playpen and the dog, and it takes them 3 trips in 20 minutes. The heat shimmers up off the fresh-hosed driveways. The flags hang dead still in the morning all down the block, and the next block, far as you can see. You pile in with your folks, Petey kicking the back of the seat, and roll down through the heat and the flags. You can't get anywhere near a parking spot downtown. Nobody ever can on the 4th. So you leave the car blocks off and walk in. And you hear the parade before you see it. The boom of a bass drum, off time, and a crowd. Main Street is shoulder to shoulder, the whole town turned out and pressed up along both curbs in the sun, all the way down toward the pier. The bunting hung red, white, and blue off the storefronts, the surf shops on the corner draped in it. You work Petey up onto your shoulders so he can see, his sandy heels drumming your chest. And here it comes, the high school band in their wool uniforms, sweating, blasting out a march a half beat apart. The fire trucks creeping along with their lights going, and the little kids screaming for the siren. The Shriners in their fezzes doing figure eights in those little cars. The horses and the scout troops, and a flatbed with the local girls on it in white. Somebody's daughter waving with that careful little turn of the wrist. Candy comes flying to the curb, and the kids dive for it. There's a knot of old men in garrison caps, marching stiff and proud behind a flag. The veterans, a few of them limping. And the crowd goes quiet, and the men take their hats off as they pass. And then everybody claps. There's a paper dragon from somebody's club, and a fellow on a unicycle, and the rotary, and a homemade float about the oil that's mostly chicken wire and crepe paper and already coming apart in the heat. And all down the front row stand the mothers, the ones who got every one of those children up and scrubbed and dressed in their red, white, and blue, and down here by 9, holding the babies, pointing things out, wiping faces. And the girls go by in clumps, Linda somewhere among them, in a way that has you watching for her without quite letting on. The girls have made a whole thing of the day, the way they do. Hair done up, ribbons, a boys' class ring on more than one hand, the bunch of them moving down the curb in a knot, laughing, watching to see who's watching them. The mothers fan themselves with the folded parade route and bounce the babies on their hips and call the wandering ones back by name. Somebody's grandmother holds court from a folding chair in the only shade on the block, a wet handkerchief laid on the back of her neck. The drums come up through the soles of your feet. The whole town is out together in the heat, every face you know, and it feels for an hour like the whole world is right here on this one street, and nobody is anywhere else. Now, every town had a parade, and you went every year of your life. But here's the thing us fellas never once thought about. Somebody got all those children up and scrubbed and pressed and dressed in their red, white, and blue and had them on that curb by 9 in the morning. That was your mother's. Maybe it was you. You remember getting them all out the door on a day like that? I see it now. Stay close, there's a whole day yet. When the last of the parade has gone by, the whole crowd turns as one and pours down the hill toward the water. Because on the 4th, the whole town ends up on the sand. And the beach is a sight, packed near to the waterline, a city of umbrellas and blankets all jammed up against each other. The smoke of 100 grills already hanging over it. Transistor radios every few feet, all tuned to the same station, so the song follows you wherever you walk. Your mother and the other women set up the camp in the thick of it, squaring the blankets, screwing the umbrellas down deep, laying claim to a patch of sand and making it home for the day. The cooler in the shade, the towels, the babies dug down into little shaded nests where they can be watched. It's a whole society down there on the sand, and it's the women who run it, calling across to one another, lending a bottle opener down the line, passing a baby along to be admired and handed back, and keeping one eye always on the heads bobbing out past the shore break. A mother knows her own child's holler out of 200. You watch it happen all day. A woman half asleep under a hat comes straight up off the blanket at one particular cry out of all that racket, and she is never once wrong about whose it is. The men carry the heavy things down and then drift off to stand in the water with their arms crossed. The women stay up on the dry sand where the camp is, in the shade of the umbrellas, and that camp is the heart of the whole operation, the place every kid comes tearing back to all day long, for a sandwich, for a nickel, for a splinter pulled or a knee kissed or a quick cry hidden, for the cold drink and the hand laid flat on the forehead before charging off again into the crowd. The camp holds the day together, and the women hold the camp, and the kids hit the shore break in a screaming mob. Petey gone the second your mother's eyes leave him, and you spend a while just being the big brother, fishing him and his buddies up out of the white water and pointing them back at the beach so the moms can count heads and find their own. In the heavy part of the afternoon, when the little kids have worn themselves out and the grown folks are dozing under the umbrellas, you drift off down the wet sand, and Linda drifts off the same way, and you end up walking the tide line together a good way down the beach. You don't say much. The wet packed sand is cool under your feet after the hot dry stuff up top, and the thin sheet of the spent waves slides up over your ankles and drags back, and the sandpipers run ahead of you on their quick little legs and wheel away. The tide's going out, and it's left the sand hard and ribbed and shining, scattered with broken sand dollars and the purple insides of clam shells and long brown ropes of kelp with the flies working them. You stop, and she stops, and you both look back at the whole crowded, blazing beach from down here where it's gone quiet, the heat haze standing over all of it, the pier the other way. A gull stands one-legged and eyes you. The thin water slides up warm over the top of your feet and cold underneath. Way down the beach, the pier stands out gray in the haze, and behind you the crowd is just a low-colored blur and a hum. She tells you about her grandmother, who was born on this coast when there was nothing here but the oil and the bean fields and the Sunday crowds off the big red trolley cars, and how the old woman won't go down to the beach anymore because she says it isn't hers now. Too many people, too many houses. You walk and listen, and the two of you have a little contest about who'll get their feet wet up to the knee first. And she wins because she always wins. And you walk back up the beach toward the smoke, not touching, and very aware of not touching. She stops once and picks up a sand dollar that isn't broken, a whole one, which is rare, and turns it over in her fingers and hands it to you without a word. And you put it in your pocket and say nothing back, and the two of you walk on. And somehow that little chalky disc riding in your pocket is the biggest thing that has happened to you all summer long. By the time the sun goes low and orange, the whole beach starts to smell like supper. And the women call everybody in, and the feast comes out. And it is a feast. There is no other word for it. The card tables go up in the sand, and the women lay it all out, dish after dish, out of the coolers and the baskets. The fried chicken, cold and crisp. The potato salad and the 3-bean salad. The deviled eggs. The baked beans somebody kept warm. The sliced tomatoes. The corn. The Jell-O turned out of its mold and shivering on its lettuce. The watermelon. The rolls. And down at the end, the pies and the angel food cake and the hand-cranked ice cream packed in its bucket of salt ice all day and ready now. Every family's brought its one best thing, and the tables run 20 feet, and there is more food laid out than this whole crowd could put away in 2 days, which is exactly the point of it. The women move along behind the tables in their summer dresses, lifting the foil, swapping the serving spoons from dish to dish, settling little arguments about whose recipe is whose, pressing seconds on everybody that wanders by. The men stand over the grill in their aprons, turning the burgers and the dogs, and getting clapped on the back for it. The grandmothers sit in the good chairs with their plates in their laps and watch it all, and tell you the holiday isn't what it used to be, that you should have seen it before the war. And they say it happy, not sad, glad to be here saying it at all. The little kids eat standing up and run off and circle back for more. Somebody's baby gets passed around and held by 6 different women before it makes its way home. The light goes from gold to rose out over the water. But it's the women who built this, who cooked it in the heat since before church, and hauled it down here and set it all out, and now stand back making sure every plate is full but their own. Down the length of the tables, the women's talk runs easy over the food, the heat, the parade, whose boy is home from the service, a baby coming in the fall, a recipe pried loose at last after years of asking. The easy back and forth of women who have fed this same crowd on this same sand every summer for years, and will feed it again next summer, and the one after that. You load up till the paper plate goes soft in your hand, and you find a place in the warm sand, and you eat in the gold light with your people all around you. The whole tired, sunburned crowd of them, full and easy. The day going down sweet and slow toward the dark. Look at that table. The potato salad, the deviled eggs, the beans, the pies, and the ice cream somebody cranked by hand on the back step till her arm gave out. You know who made all that. It started before church, and it never really stopped. The men stood at the grill and got the credit, but the women made the holiday, every holiday, and called it nothing at all. If that was you, we knew. We should have said so. I'm saying it now. When the last light goes out of the sky and the dark comes down warm over the water, the whole beach settles in close, and the children get their sparklers, and everybody waits for the pier. The fathers light the sparklers off cigarette ends, and for a while the dark beach is full of little spitting white stars. The small kids running and writing their names in the air. Petey among them gone wild with it, screaming. The sparklers come in a box from the dime store, and there are never enough and always just enough. And the big kids show the little ones how to write out a whole name before it burns down to the wire. You do a few yourself for Petey, spelling things in the dark, the white sparks stinging and beautiful and gone. All down the beach, other families are doing the very same. Little knots of light up and down the dark sand, and out past them the bonfires going, and the black water beyond that. And then somebody points, and the first rocket goes up off the end of the pier and bursts over the black ocean. And the boom of it comes rolling back a second later, and the whole beach goes, ah. You sit down in the cool sand between Linda and your family and lean back and watch them climb and burst, red and gold and white, raining down over the dark water, the pier a black shape underneath, the booms thudding in your chest. Some of them go up and open into great, slow-falling willows of red and gold, and some are just a single hard white flash and a crack you feel in your teeth, and between them, the smoke drifts back low over the crowd, lit up from the inside by the next one before you even hear it come. The little kids try to count them and lose track. Somewhere down the beach, a baby wails at the noise and gets hushed against a shoulder. Each one lights up the whole beach for a flash. All the upturned faces, the mothers with the babies, the old folks in their chairs, the whole town's face lit blue-white and then dark, lit and then dark. Petey's curled up against your mother now, worn out at last, watching with his thumb in his mouth. Your father's hand comes to rest on your shoulder in the dark and stays there. And Linda's shoulder is just barely against yours, and neither one of you moves away. It's late, and it's over when you finally start home. The whole town moving slow up off the beach together in the dark, tired and quiet and happy. The smoke of the fireworks still hanging in the warm air. The mothers carry the sleeping littlest ones, and the men carry the chairs and the coolers, the whole long day folded up and hauled back the way it was hauled down. Petey's dead asleep on your father's shoulder before you reach the car, his sparkler still clutched in his fist, burned out. The bottle rockets pop a few streets over. And then you're home, the house ticking and cooling in the dark, and your mother moving quiet through it, putting the last things away, still going, the last one going, the way she was the first one up. She gets Petey peeled out of his clothes without hardly waking him and down into bed. She sets the last of the pie under its towel and the ice cream back in the freezer and the dishes in to soak. She turns off the lamps, one by one. You hear all of it from your room, the small last sounds of a house being put to bed by the one soul still awake in it. And that's the last thing you know before the dark pulls you under. You lie down in your own room with the window open to the warm night and the far-off surf, sunburned and full and worn all the way out, and you are asleep before you can think a single thing about it. The whole beach in the dark, and the sky on fire over the water. And you know who wasn't watching the fireworks? The mothers. They were watching the children's faces, lit up, mouths wide open, because they knew that was the better show. You remember a hand finding yours in the dark, knowing without a word that you were safe? I'd give about anything to feel that one more time. The 4th is behind you now, the flags folded back into their drawers, and the town has slipped back into the easy rhythm of an ordinary summer weekday. You sleep in a little because there's no dawn patrol that calls you the way it did, and besides, you've got somewhere to be later that isn't the water, exactly. The house smells of coffee and toast. your father long gone to the plant. Your mother's at the sink with the radio on, and she reminds you that you're due at the shop, as if you'd forget. You eat your toast standing up at the counter, and drink a cup of the coffee you've only lately been allowed, feeling very grown about it. Out the window, the morning's already bright and hot, the gloom long since burned off. The only mornings it doesn't hang gray are the ones you sleep clean through. The sprinklers have shut off. Somewhere down the block, a lawnmower's going. The whole day is wide open, and it's yours, right up till the shop. And the shop's the best part anyway. Because that's the thing about this summer. You've got a job, a real one. And there is no finer feeling in the world at 16 than throwing your leg over your bike with somewhere to be and somebody expecting you. Let's go. You smell the shop before you're off your bike, that thick, sweet, head-swimming smell of resin curing, and under it the dust of shaped foam and the old reliable coconut of the wax, all of it pouring out the propped open door into the morning. Smitty's place sits a half block up from the pier, and walking into it is like walking into the inside of the whole sport. The walls are racked floor to ceiling with boards, new ones, bright white and candy-striped, glassed and gleaming, and dinged-up trade-ins, and a couple of long old redwood relics nobody'd ride anymore hung up high like museum pieces. The light comes through dusty and gold. A radio plays in the corner, the surf instrumental stuff, all reverb and drip. And back through a doorway hung with a bedsheet is the shaping room, where the light is bright and hard and the air hangs thick with foam dust. And that's where Smitty mostly is, in his apron and his paper mask pushed up on his forehead, running a planer down a blank, reading the shape of it with his hands more than his eyes. The other surfers drift in and out all morning the way they do. There's no real line here between a customer and a fellow just hanging around, leaning on the counter, pulling this board down and that one and sighting down the rail, arguing over who got the best of it this morning and where it'll be good tomorrow and who's gone off where. There's always a transistor going somewhere on top of the shop radio, 2 stations at once. A dog sleeps in the one patch of sun on the floor, and you step over him all day long. The screen door bangs and bangs. Smitty owns the place and shapes the boards and runs the register and knows every soul who surfs this stretch of coast. And somewhere along the way this summer, he decided to take you on, to sweep up, to wax the rentals, to mind the front while he's in the back, to fetch and tote and learn. You sweep the foam dust into long drifts. You wax a row of boards till your arm aches. You ring up a tourist family renting 2 soft old logs they'll flail around on for an hour. You set them up the way Smitty taught you. Show the father how to carry it under his arm, where to paddle out so he won't brain anybody, wax the deck for the kids, and off they go happy. And you know you'll be untangling them out of the whitewater in an hour, and that's fine. That's the job. The regulars get the real treatment. A board pulled down from the back, laid across 2 sawhorses, turned and studied and talked over like a horse a man's thinking of buying. Money changes hands slow around here, folded and unhurried. It isn't really a store at all. It's a clubhouse that happens to sell boards. Smitty's been surfing this beach since before it was a thing anybody even had a name for, back when you could count the boards in the water on one hand, and the young hotshots all defer to him whether they mean to or not. He doesn't ride much anymore, a bad shoulder, but he watches, and he remembers every wave anybody ever caught out front, and he can tell you what's wrong with your bottom turn without once looking up from the planer. You're a little in awe of him, and you try hard not to show it, and he knows that too. And in the slow stretches, Smitty calls you back into the shaping room and shows you things, how a rail wants to be turned, why a nose lifts, how you can feel a high spot under your palm that your eye would swear was flat. You love the shaping room best of the whole place, the hard bright light, the foam dust hanging in it like snow that won't fall, the long clean smell of a fresh cut blank, The way a shape comes up slow out of a raw block of foam under his hands, over an hour, till there it is, a board, a thing that will fly. He lets you sand sometimes, the fine finish work, and stands over you and watches and says little. And one word out of him, when you've got it right, is worth more than the whole day's pay. He doesn't talk much, and when he does, it's worth hearing. And he razzes you steady about your surfing in a way that means he likes you. You'd sweep that floor for nothing. Some days you about do. Your first real job, you remember it? Not the money, the place. The smell of it, whatever it was, sawdust or motor grease, or in this case, surf wax and resin. And there was always some older fellow there who took a shine to you, showed you how a thing got done right, talked to you like a man before you were quite one. You have somebody like that? I hope you did. Some of what those men gave you, you're still carrying and don't even know it. Stay with me. The day's not half over. Around noon, Smitty sends you down the street on an errand and tells you to take your time about it, which is the kind of boss to have, and you cut down Main into the heart of downtown. It's a few short blocks all told, the whole downtown, running from the highway down to the pier, low old buildings, awnings out against the sun. You pass the dime store with its window full of beach toys and cap guns and the smell of warm popcorn and rubber drifting out the door. You pass the barber shop, the pole turning, two old-timers waiting their turn and watching the street. They've watched this street 60 years, those old men. Watched it go from a dusty oil camp at the end of the trolley line to whatever it's turning into now. And they'll tell you all about it if you stand still long enough. About the big red cars that used to run the Sunday crowds down from the city. Gone now, the tracks long pulled up. You pass the 5 and dime, and the smell of it reaches right out and grabs you by the nose. Popcorn and rubber and candy and dime store perfume all at once. The exact smell of being a kid with a quarter to spend. There's the bakery and a hardware, and the bank on the corner, and the marquee of the Surf Theater hung out over the sidewalk. You do Smitty's errand at the hardware, and then you duck into the drugstore for a minute out of the heat, into the cool and the dim and the ceiling fan, and you take a stool at the long marble soda fountain, and the jerk draws you a cherry Coke, syrup and soda, and the cherry on top, a dime. The fountain's the cool, dark heart of the whole downtown. The marble counter worn smooth, the chrome spigots, the round stools that spin, the long mirror behind, and the rows of glasses stacked up. The soda jerk in his white paper cap working the taps. The ceiling fan turns slow overhead. Down the rack, a kid's reading a comic book he hasn't bought, and nobody says a word to him. And the screen door lets in a slice of hot white street every time it swings open and claps shut again on its spring. You could sit here an hour and nobody would run you off. The pharmacist counts out pills in the back. A mother comes in with a list and a couple of kids hanging off her arm. The fan turns. Out the window, the heat stands up off Main Street in waves, and a dog crosses it diagonal, in no hurry whatever, and lies down in the shade of the awning on the far side. Down the counter, a couple of girls your age sit close over a single tall glass with 2 straws, in no hurry whatsoever, watching the door, watching the street, watching everything. You drink your Coke slow in the cool, and you are in no hurry either. Nobody is. It is the middle of a summer weekday, and the whole town is just turning over slow in the heat, and there is all the time in the world. Now, us boys had the surf shop and the pier, but downtown on a summer afternoon, that was the girls' country. 2 by 2 at the soda fountain, 1 Coke and 2 straws. A whole afternoon spent going nowhere in particular and not missing one single thing that happened on that street. You ladies had your own map of that town, didn't you? Who was where, who was sweet on who. We only ever saw the edges of it. Was that you, down at the counter? Stay close now. You're not due back at the shop right away, and there's a matinee on, and a quarter in your pocket. So you and Donnie do what any two boys would do, and duck into the cool dark of the surf theater. It's a surf picture, of course. That's mostly what they run here. And the little house is half full of guys just like you, barefoot, sandy, sun-bleached, there to watch other men ride waves on the far side of the world. The lights go down, and the projector throws its dusty beam over your heads, and the screen fills up with blue, impossible blue water, some perfect peeling point break in Hawaii or Africa or somewhere you'll never go. A lone surfer drawing a long, clean line across a wave the size of a building. You've seen this kind of picture a dozen times, and it gets you every single time. There's no real story to it, just wave after wave after wave, and the music, and that easy voice, and the light coming up off the water. But it's the only story you want. Somewhere out there, the picture keeps telling you, it is always summer, the surf is always up, and a fellow with a board and no particular place to be can follow the warm weather clear around the turning world and never once have to grow up. Every boy in that dark little room is leaning toward the screen like a plant toward a window. And then it's over, too soon, and the lights come up, and you and Donnie file out blinking into the blinding white heat of the afternoon street like you've been a long way off and got set back down at home. For a second, the real ocean down at the end of Maine looks almost dull next to the one up on that screen. Almost. Then a set rolls through off the end of the pier, you can see it from right here, and breaks clean, and you remember the real thing is sitting there waiting, free, all yours. And somehow that's even better than the picture. And the whole house hollers. Every good ride, every wipeout, the room hoots and groans and stomps the floor like it's right there in the water. The narrator talks that easy, sun-warmed talk over a twanging guitar about chasing the summer around the whole world so it never has to end. You sit there in the dark with your knees up on the seat ahead and the cold of the air conditioning raising the hair on your sunburned arms, and you ache to be in that water, that exact water. And you about believe that one day you will be. By the time you get back and finish out the afternoon at the shop, the light's going long and gold, and Smitty cuts you loose, and there's just enough day left for a quick one before supper. So you grab your board off the rack and trot down to the pier and paddle out into the evening session. And it's a different crowd now, the after-work guys, a few of the older fellows, Rick the lifeguard off his tower and out for a few of his own before the light goes. The waves have gone soft and glassy in the evening calm, and the sun sits fat and orange out past the end of the pier, throwing a long gold road across the water right to you. And every time you drop in, you're sliding straight down that road into the light. Rick paddles over and you trade a few words, and he tells you to come by the tower tomorrow. They could use a hand. And you say you'll think on it like it's nothing, like your heart didn't just jump, because the lifeguards are the kings of this beach, and you know it. The water's warm at the top and cold down where your feet hang, and the swells come through in long, even lines, easy, the kind of evening you can't catch a bad one. A squadron of pelicans comes gliding down the line of a swell, low and single file, and peels off one at a time into the gold. It's the best session of the day, this one, and the shortest. The evening glass, the low sun, the half-dozen guys you know strung along the lineup, nobody hustling, everybody just taking turns and trading hoots. The town behind you goes to black silhouette, the pier a dark cutout against the orange. You figure you could do this every evening of your life and never once tire of it. And the thing is, you fully mean to. Nobody talks much. There's just the dip and pull of the paddling, the hiss of the boards, the easy talk between sets, the gulls heading in for the night. You ride them till you can't see them coming anymore, and then you sit out past the break a minute in the last of it, rising and falling, the pier lights coming on behind you before you catch one in. Supper's on the table when you get home, salt stiff and starving, your hair still damp, and your father's there at the head of it, washed up from the plant, tired in the easy end-of-day way. Your mother's fixed something plain and good, meatloaf and mashed potatoes and green beans she's had going since the afternoon. And there's the iced tea sweating in the good glasses, and bread and butter on the table. You come to it with the salt still tight on your skin, and your appetite roaring the way it does after a day in the water, and you eat like you haven't seen food in a week. Your father asks how it went down at the shop, and you tell him about the board Smitty's shaping, about the run on the rentals, and he listens and nods, and you can tell it pleases him that you've got somewhere to be, that you're learning a trade under somebody. He talks a little about his own day, the plant, the piece they just shipped, in that offhand way he has, like it's nothing at all that the work of his own two hands is bound for the far side of the sky. Petey's full of some scheme that involves the garden hose. Your mother asks, did you eat one thing all day and you can't rightly remember? And she shakes her head and lays another slice of meatloaf on your plate without being asked. The fan turns in the corner. A moth finds the screen and ticks against it. Outside, the light goes down gold and then gray, and the first porch lights come on up the block, and a couple of houses over, a screen door slaps, and a mother's voice calls some kid of hers in for the night. Your mother keeps the plates filled and the talk moving easy around the table, and the windows open to the cooling evening, and the radio plays low, and for a little while the whole family is just there together at the one table at the end of an ordinary day. And it is enough, and more than enough, and nobody thinks to say so. Later on, Donnie's brother turns up with the car, and a car on a summer night at 16 is the whole world cracked wide open. So you pile in and go cruising the coast highway. It's a low old coupe with the back seat you're folded into with Donnie, and the windows are down, and the radio is up. The big boss station out of Los Angeles. The DJ talking fast and bright over the jingles, song into song into song. You roll up the coast highway with the warm night pouring in the windows, salt and exhaust and somebody's drive-in hamburgers. The ocean a wide black nothing off to the left, and the lights of the town strung out on the right. The big stations fade in and out as you drive, the DJ's voice riding up out of the static. And when a good one comes on, Donnie's brother cranks it, and the whole car sings along, badly, every word. You pass the shut-up dark storefronts downtown, and the lit-up gas stations with the boys in white caps wiping windshields. And out on the bluff, the oil pumps working away against the last of the light, nodding and nodding the way they have the whole of your life. You pull into the drive-in burger stand where the car hops still come out to the car, and you get burgers and fries and a shake passed in through the window, 35 cents and you're a king, and you eat in the car with the radio going. The car hop knows Donnie's brother and leans in the window a minute to talk, her tray propped on her hip, and there are other cars nosed in all around the lot, full of kids you half know, the whole place loud with radios all tuned the same and engines and laughing. Somebody revs a built motor down at the end and every head turns. The smell of grilled onions and hot grease hangs over all of it. You're 16, in the back of a car on a summer night, a burger in your hand and money in your pocket, and nowhere on earth you have to be. And you would not trade places with a living soul. You drive up as far as the next town and turn around and come back, which is the whole point. The driving is the thing, not the getting anywhere. Donnie and his brother argue easy up front about a girl, about a motor, about nothing at all. The dash lights glow green. Your arm hangs out the window in the warm, rushing air. And the radio plays the songs of that one summer, one into the next, the whole soundtrack of it, and you know every single word. Then back out onto the highway, slow, going nowhere, just driving, just being out in it. The gas stations all lit up, the other cars full of other kids doing the same exact thing. A wave here, a holler there. The whole coast cruising itself on a summer night under a sky going from orange to purple to dark. The night ends down at the Golden Bear, the low club on the highway just off Main, where there's a band on and the doors open and the music spills out onto the sidewalk. You may be a hair young for the place, but nobody's checking close on a summer night, and you slip into the dark and the noise and the press of bodies. There's a band up on the little stage, and the guitar is the surf sound turned up loud and live, that wet, fast, reverby attack, the drums driving it, the sound coming up through the floor and into your chest. The band's just local fellows, a few years older than you, but up there in the colored lights, with that sound pouring off them, they might as well be the biggest thing in the world. The reverb on the guitar fills the whole room, wave on wave of it, drippy and wild, and the drummer drives the thing like he's running flat downhill. You feel it in your sternum and your back teeth. The crowd moves with it, packed in close and hot, the whole room gone to one thing. You don't dance exactly, there's no room to, and you wouldn't anyway. You just stand in it, in the heat and the dark and the noise, close enough to Linda that your arms touch, and let the sound wash over the both of you. Between the numbers, the room roars, and somebody calls out for a song, and the band grins and plays it. The bass drum might as well be your own heart. There is nowhere else in the whole world you would rather be, and for once you know it while it's happening. The room is hot and dark and packed, college kids and surfers and girls, and Linda's there with her friends, and you find your way to her through the crowd. And you can't really talk over the band, so you mostly just stand close and listen, shoulder to shoulder, the music doing the talking. You don't stay too late, but when you finally push back out onto the sidewalk into the cool, quiet night, your ears are ringing and the song still going in you, and the walk home is all stars and surf, and that guitar still playing somewhere down inside you. And you know, without a word for it, that this is about as good as it gets. There's one song, just one, that is a whole summer to you. You hear 3 notes of it now coming out of a car radio somewhere, and you have to stop a second, and you're 16 again. The windows are down, somebody you were sweet on is right there in the seat beside you, and the whole night is still out ahead of you. You know the one I mean, don't you? Funny what a little song can carry and never set down. Rest easy now. That's a full day and a good one. You sleep with that guitar still going somewhere down inside you. And when you wake, something about the morning has changed, though you'd be hard put to say what. The light, maybe. It comes in a little lower, a little more golden than it did, slanting where it used to fall straight. The summer's not over, not near over, but somewhere in the back of your mind, a clock you didn't know you had has started ticking, the first far-off whisper that this can't last forever, that school and fall and the rest of your life are out there somewhere past the end of it. You don't listen to it, not today. The house is moving when you come out, your mother frying eggs, your father lingering over a second cup of coffee on a rare, slow morning, because even he's going down to the pier to see it. Everybody is. Petey's wild to go. You bolt your breakfast standing up at the counter, half hearing your mother say something about not staying out in the sun all day, and you're out the door with your board before she's even finished, into a morning already warm and bright and humming with the whole town getting itself pointed the same direction you are. You can feel it in the air, the bigness of the day. A few flags are still up from the 4th, cars you don't know, boards on the roof and out-of-town plates, are already nosing toward the beach. A radio somewhere is giving the surf report like it's the morning news, which today it is. And the gloom's gone already, burned off early, the sky scrubbed clean and blue, like even the weather knew to show up for this one. Because today is the big day, the day of the surfing championship down at the pier, the day the whole town comes to the water to watch. And you're up and pulling on your trunks before the thought can take hold. Let's go. You smell the crowd before you see it. Suntan oil and cigarette smoke and grilling food. 10,000 people's worth of it, hanging over the whole beach in the still morning air. And when you come over the rise, the sand is a sea of people, more than you have ever seen on this beach in your life, banked up the slope and crowded along the pier rail and spread out either way down the shore. Blankets and umbrellas and folding chairs jammed gunnel to gunnel. The whole town and half the coast turned out under the climbing sun. There are banners strung up and a flatbed stage and a loudspeaker crackling and booming, the announcer's voice flat out over everything, calling the heats, calling the names everybody knows. You work your way down into the crush of it, threading between the blankets, stepping over coolers, the sand hot under your feet, till you can get a clear look at the water. The announcer rolls on, tinny and grand, working the crowd up, reading the scores off as the judges hold them aloft. Out past the break, the surfers in the next heat sit waiting, straddling their boards, little colored dots bobbing on the gray-green swell, watching the horizon, and the whole beach watches with them. And when a set finally stands up out there, a kind of hum runs through the crowd. Down in the water, right off the pilings where the wave breaks best, the surfers work, a handful at a time in their colored jerseys, riding for the judges. And the crowd tracks them and roars when one of them drops in late and steep and carves up under the pier and out. The best of them are local. That's somebody's boy out there, somebody you've stood next to in the lineup all summer. And when he takes off, the whole beach knows his name and hollers it. You see one of them get the wave of the day, drops in right under the shadow of the pier, stalls, lets the thing throw up and over him, and comes flying out the end of it with both hands up, and the beach comes apart. 10,000 people roaring at once, the sound rolling back off the water. The pier rail is packed 3 deep with folks looking straight down on the action. Kids have climbed up onto their father's shoulders. Everybody's burnt red and squinting into the hard glare off the sea. You find a spot you can see from and you don't move for an hour, you and Donnie, calling the rides like you're judges yourselves, arguing every score. The tide shifts, the wind comes up, and the announcer frets about it over the loudspeaker. A heat ends, and the surfers come trudging up the sand, dragging their boards, spent, and a new 4 paddle out, and the crowd reads its mimeographed program to see who's who. It is the most important thing that has ever happened, and it is only a surf contest, and somehow both of those are true at the same time. And in the girls' heat, there's a local girl, small and quick and fearless, who walks to the nose and hangs there with the whole wave behind her. And the women on the beach come up off their blankets screaming for her. You didn't rightly know girls could ride like that till you saw the local ones do it, and neither, you suspect, did half the men on the beach, and they cheer all the louder for being shown. The judges sit up on their stand in their dark glasses, conferring, holding up the scores. Between heats, the water goes flat and empty, and the loudspeaker fills the wait with music and the names of the sponsors. And the crowd settles and murmurs and passes the sandwiches down the blankets. And then the next heat paddles out, and the whole thing winds up all over again. You stand in the roar with the sun on you and the whole town pressed in around you. And you have never in your life felt so much a part of something. The whole town turned out for it, 10,000 people on the sand for one day, to watch a few local kids ride some waves. And everybody knew them. That was somebody's boy out there, somebody's girl. You'd grown up alongside them. There's a kind of belonging in that, a whole town pulling for its own. That's gotten awful hard to come by now. You ever have that? A hometown hero you stood in the hot sun and cheered yourself hoarse for? Stay close now. Back up on the dry sand, all around the contest, a whole carnival has sprung up for the day, and you and Donnie work your way through the thick of it. The surf shops have set up booths, Smitty's among them, and he gives you a nod and a hard time both as you go by, with new boards stood up gleaming in the sun and stickers and wax and t-shirts. You stop at every one of them. There are boards you couldn't dream of affording, and you sight down the rails of them anyway, the way Smitty taught you. There are photographs of the big-name surfers for sale, and the surf magazines, and decals. A flatbed's got a band on it between the heats, the surf sound cranked up loud. And the smell of the whole thing, the coconut wax, the hot dogs, the sea, is the exact smell of the best day of the summer. There are snack stands doing a roaring business, the smell of hot dogs and kettle corn and grilled onions thick in the air, and a stand selling cold pop out of tubs of ice, and somebody's got music going under the loudspeaker. Little kids chase around with autograph books hunting the surfers. Girls in bright two-pieces move through the crowd in laughing packs. And Linda's working the busy stand near the foot of the pier, slammed, hair stuck to her forehead, and she catches sight of you and rolls her eyes at the madness of it, and you grin back, and there's no getting near her today. And that's all right. You'll find her tonight, you figure. You always do. Donnie buys 2 hot dogs and hands you one, and the 2 of you eat them standing in the crowd watching the awards start up on the flatbed stage, the winners going up one at a time, sun-bleached and shy, to take their trophies and mumble something nobody can hear into the loudspeaker. The local boy wins his division and the crowd loses its mind. The local girl takes hers and the women scream all over again. And you clap till your hands sting for kids you've known your whole life, up there in the sun, champions. And then it's done, and the trophies catch the light, and the photographers crowd in, and the crowd starts gathering up its blankets and its sandy, tired children. It went so fast, the whole big day you'd waited all summer for. That's the way of the big ones. They're over before you're quite ready. And already the beach is thinking about heading home. By the middle of the afternoon, the heats are run and the winners are announced, and the crowd starts to break up and stream back toward the parking lots, and the great churned-up beach begins slowly to empty. And here is the thing only the locals know to do. You wait. You and Donnie hang back, and you grab your boards, and when the last of the contest crowd has gone, and the banners are coming down, and the loudspeakers gone quiet, you paddle out into water that is suddenly, gloriously yours again. It's the oldest trick there is. Let the crowd have the day, and take back the evening. The tourists are bumper to bumper on the coast highway heading home while you're stroking out into glass. The contest banners hang limp and forgotten on the sand. A few gulls work over the trash the crowd left behind, and the wave that 10,000 people sat and watched all day long is just sitting out there now, peeling off the pier, going to waste, waiting for somebody to come ride it. And that somebody is you. The light's going long and gold. The waves have cleaned up in the afternoon calm, and it's just the 2 of you and a handful of others out there now, in the very same spot where the champions rode a few hours ago, trading waves in the warm gold evening with the emptying beach behind you, and the pier throwing its long shadow across the water. Nobody says much. You catch them till the sun's sitting fat and red on the rim of the ocean, and then you sit out past the break a while, the 2 of you, rising and falling on the swell, not ready to go in, watching the day burn down over the water. You come in at last when the light's near gone and the water's turned to pewter, and you walk up the beach with your board under your arm, the whole great trampled stretch of sand empty now and littered with the leavings of the day. Paper cups, a lost sandal, the dark, worn rings where the contest crowd sat all afternoon. The town you walk up into is wrung out and happy, winding down off the biggest day of its summer. The parking lots are draining, tail lights streaming up the coast highway. The snack stands are shuttering for the night, hosing down their counters. Somebody's coiling up the loudspeaker wire across the sand. Downtown, the storefronts go dark one by one, but the lights of the drive-in and the Golden Bear are flickering on, and the evening's just getting started for the older kids with cars and nowhere they have to be. You and Donnie split up at the corner, too beat for any more of the day, and you walk the last few blocks home alone through the warm dusk, the sprinklers ticking on across the lawns, the smell of 100 suppers riding the air, your shoulders aching in that good way, salt stiff and sun-drugged and ready for once to be home. The street lights come on as you walk, one and then another, buzzing pink and then white. A sprinkler catches you and you don't even bother to dodge it. From the open windows comes the clink of supper dishes and the murmur of the evening news, and here and there, somebody calling the kids in off the street for the night. You've walked this same stretch home 1,000 times, and your feet know every crack and buckle in the sidewalk without you ever once having to look down. Supper's late and easy that night, the whole family worn down soft by the sun, and you eat with the windows open and the gold light going to dusk across the table. Your father's quiet, and then he tells you, in that offhand way of his, that the thing his crew's been building all year finally shipped this week, finally went off to wherever it goes. And there's something in his face when he says it, tired and proud and a little amazed. A man who came out here with his hands and helped build the machines that are going to carry people clear off the earth. You try to picture it sometimes, some small piece your own father shaped or wired or checked, riding up on a pillar of fire past the edge of everything. And you can't quite make it fit with the tired man at the head of the table in his undershirt. And maybe that's the whole wonder of the age you're living in, that it's tired men in undershirts a few miles up the freeway who are building the road to the moon and coming home to supper after, like anybody. Your mother's got a letter open beside her plate, come from back home, and she reads a little of it out. Somebody's wedding, somebody's passing, the ordinary news of a place 1,000 miles away. And then she goes quiet over it a minute, far off, before she folds it back into its envelope and gets up to bring the pie. It's a peach pie, the last of the summer's fruit, and there's coffee for your folks and a glass of milk for Petey, who's too tired to drink it. The talk runs low and easy, and then runs out altogether, comfortable, nobody needing to fill it. The windows open to the blue dusk and the first crickets. The dishes wait in the sink, and your father pushes back from the table at last with a long, satisfied sigh. The sound a tired man makes at the end of a good day, a sound coming through 1,000 screen doors up and down that coast at that very hour. Petey's sunburned and nodding off in his chair before he's even done eating, and you sit there in the last of the light among the four of them, full and brown and tired, and feel, without a word for it, how rare and how whole this is. The one table, the open window, the people you belong to. Did you catch that? Your mother? Reading a letter at the table, gone quiet a minute, a long way off? So many of those women came west young, left their own mothers 1,000 miles behind to follow a husband and a paycheck out to California. They built a whole life out here among strangers and wrote home every week. and missed their people every single day and never once made it your problem. If that was your mother, or if that was you, I see it. Stay close. It's almost dark. Late that night, when the moon is right, the word goes around the way it always does, and you and half the kids on the beach grab a bucket and a flashlight and head down to the dark sand for the grunion run. And it is the strangest, finest magic there is. You stand at the edge of the wet sand in the warm dark, with the moon laid out silver across the water, and you wait, and the surf booms unseen, and then, there, on the next wave, the whole waterline comes alive, silver, thousands of little fish flipping and writhing up out of the foam onto the wet sand to spawn by the light of the moon, the way they have on these summer nights since long before there was a town here to watch. It doesn't happen every night, and you can never be dead sure it'll happen at all. That's half the magic of it, the waiting in the dark, the not knowing. Somebody swearing it's tonight, and somebody else swearing it was last night, and you all missed it. And then it comes, all at once, the sea giving up its silver, and there is no mistaking it when it does. The whole tide line turns to flipping light. You wade in among them, the cold water surging around your shins, and the fish are everywhere, against your legs, in your hands, slipping away, more than anybody could ever hope to catch. A whole living silver river of them pouring up out of the sea onto the land for these few minutes under the moon. The kids shriek and slip and go down in it and come up laughing with fistfuls. A tipped bucket spills its catch back into the surf. And just as fast as it came, it starts to ebb, the last of them wriggling back down the wet sand into the foam, and the whole beach lets out a long breath. The kids go wild, screaming, scrambling, snatching at them, the flashlight beams swinging everywhere. Petey, your folks let him come along just this once, is beside himself, soaked to the waist, a fish in each fist, hollering for you to look, look. Some folks fill whole buckets for frying up later, and some just stand and watch the silver tide come and go in the moonlight and never catch a single one. Old folks have carried lawn chairs down to the edge of it. Couples walk the waterline holding hands. The little ones run themselves ragged, and over all of it, the moon lays its long, bright road out across the black water, the same as it has every grunion night for 10,000 years. And the surf rolls in, and the fish keep coming. Linda's down the beach with her girlfriends, her flashlight bobbing, her laugh carrying over the water. You make your way down to her through the dark and the running kids, and for a while the two of you just stand at the edge of the silver water, not catching anything at all. Your shoulders close, the moonlight on the both of you, the cold spray coming up off the break, and it is, you're fairly sure, the single best moment of the whole summer. And you'd be hard put to say exactly why. Just the dark and the moon and the fish and her. And being 16 on a warm beach in the moonlight, with the whole sweet summer still going on all around you. You catch a few and let most go, the little bodies cold and frantic and quicksilver in your hands. And the moon pours down, and the surf rolls in, and the whole beach is full of running children and swinging lights and that ancient silver tide. And you will never, as long as you live, forget this night. It's late, so late, when the run finally plays out, and the fish go back to the sea, and the kids straggle off up the beach in twos and threes, and you find yourself alone for a minute at the edge of the water, where the fog has started to come in off the dark sea. It comes the way it always does, the cool gray breath of it sliding up the sand, dimming the moon, smelling of the deep cold water out past the break. The flashlights are bobbing away up the beach now, getting smaller, the hollering growing faint. A last few fish flip in the wet sand at your feet, and you nudge them gently back toward the water. The fog smears the moon to a soft gray blur. The bonfires down the way have burned down to embers. And you stand there at 16, salt-cured and tired and happy, the empty beach behind you, and you don't know it. You can't. You don't know that the summers are numbered now, that the ones still ahead will go faster and faster, that the gang scattered up the beach tonight will scatter to the four corners of the earth, that one of these years is the last year you'll all be here together, and you won't even know it's the last while you're living it. You don't know that you will become an old man someday who would give back every single thing he ever earned or owned just to stand on this dark sand one more time, the fog coming in, and the fish running silver, and your kid brother hollering, and everybody you love still young and still here. You don't know a bit of it standing there, and that, the not knowing, the having it all and not counting it, that is the whole mercy and the whole heartbreak of being young. You pick up your bucket, you whistle for your brother, and you head on up the beach toward home through the warm gray fog. The house is dark and quiet when you get in, everybody else already down, and you rinse the sand off and lie down in your room with the window open to the night. And the fog has the whole town wrapped up soft and close now. The street lights gone to halos, the surf muffled and far. Somewhere out past the dark, the ocean keeps on rolling in, the way it has all summer, the way it will all the long summers to come. You can just hear it from your bed if you hold still, that far, soft, endless sound, the one that was here before the town and will be here after. The sound this whole place falls asleep to every night of the world, without quite hearing it anymore. Your eyes go heavy, the day blurs at its edges, the 10,000 faces, the gold water in the evening, the silver fish, the fog, all of it softening, running together, pulling you down easy into sleep, the warm dark closing over you, like water over your head. We had a good long summer out there, didn't we? I hope you felt it. The cold water, the warm sand, that one song you couldn't get out of your head. Now maybe you grew up on a coast like that, or maybe it was a lake or a river, or a town nowhere near any water at all. Doesn't matter. You had your summer, the one that felt like it would go on forever. Tell me down below where you spent it and what it smelled like when you were young. And if you're new here, stay with us. There's a whole country left to remember. I'm Henry. I miss those days. The sweet old America.